Super Bowl XXXIV was primarily known as the dot-com bowl, because of how many dot-com companies advertised their websites during the game. Some of these ads were good and highly memorable, and they're still talked about to this day. Others were quickly forgotten. But even though roughly half of the companies that advertised during the Super Bowl were dot-com companies, there were some familiar faces, like Visa and Budweiser, who threw their hat into the ring for another year. And then there was FedEx. This was a historic moment for the company, because for the first time ever, they would be airing multiple Super Bowl ads. After advertising with one spot at Super Bowls 32 and 33, they decided to get ambitious this year and have two spots. One of the ads, Combat Rangers, was a solid ad with a clever concept, but it was quickly forgotten. The other ad? That turned out to be one of the most memorable ads from the game. It had a great concept. It was funny. And it was so good that it was only on television for 2 weeks because FedEx pulled the commercial shortly after the game due to how controversial it was. This is the story behind FedEx's controversial ad at Super Bowl XXXIV and the aftermath that followed. Now before we start, I'm going to talk about the history of this ad for a few minutes. So if you want to see the actual advertisement, I'm going to leave a timestamp in the description. Also, personally, I don't have a problem with this ad. The ad was controversial and got pulled because of it, but I myself had no problem with what happened in the ad. This is not like the Just for Feed ad, which is an all-around catastrophe and probably the single most destructive ad to ever air at the Super Bowl. But we'll get to the controversy behind the FedEx ad later. The important thing to note starting off is that the man responsible for this ad was Joe Pytka. To say that this man knows what he's doing is an understatement. Pytka is an advertising legend. If you want a memorable ad, especially at the Super Bowl, this is the man you turn to. He's worked on over 80 Super Bowl ads over the years, along with some other pieces of media. You might recognize him for directing some of Michael Jackson's music videos. You might also recognize the name from a little independent movie he directed back in 1996 called Space Jam. Any way you look at it, Pytka is a legend. And he's responsible for some of the most famous advertisements of all time. That's not an exaggeration. Remember the I Am Tiger Woods ad? That was him.
I'm Tiger Woods.
Remember the Pepsi ad at Super Bowl XXX with the security camera? That was him. Since USA Today ran their ad meter poll in 1989, ranking the best advertisements at each Super Bowl, Pytka has topped the list 7 times. Oh, and in 1987, he directed this PSA. You may have seen it before.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Pytka has won numerous awards from the Directors Guild of America, and was an acclaimed figure in the industry. So this wasn't like FedEx was hiring some nobody off the street to do this. They were hiring the best of the best. And FedEx knew what they were getting with Pytka, because they had worked with him before. In 1999, at Super Bowl XXXIII, Pytka directed this ad for the company, which was voted in the USA Today poll as the 4th best ad of that game.
Ladies and gentlemen, please pay
Stanley Cup, okay? Cup, CUP, was supposed to be here 3 days ago. Not Stanley Zup. Listen to this, okay? Okay? You hear that? That's 20,000 screaming people that are gonna tear me apart, okay? They're gonna tear me apart. Not to mention 20 big guys with big sticks. You tear! Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hey, the yellow cup, it belongs to you, buddy.
Stanley Cup, coming through.
Got an important package? Next time, send it FedEx and be absolutely sure.
Okay, calm down.
You get the picture. This man knows what he's doing. This company knows what they're doing. And they've worked really well together before. I love that cup ad. And naturally, after the success of this ad, FedEx brought Pytka back for Super Bowl XXXIV, where the company would run not one, but 2 advertisements. This 60-second spot would feature characters from The Wizard of Oz, and it would seldom air again because of the controversy surrounding the ad. Here we go.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop
Guild, the Lollipop Guild, and in the name of the Lollipop Guild. What happened to our voices? This is not good.
Package for the Lollipop Guilds.
I'll sign for that.
Nice place you got here.
That's better. We wish to welcome you to Munchkinland.
Whether it's overseas or over the rainbow, FedEx can get it to places other shipping companies can only imagine.
Again, I want to say that personally, I have no problem with this ad whatsoever. I think it's a clever idea. I think it's a unique concept. I think it's executed extremely well. Super Bowl XXXIV had a lot of really good advertisements, and this was one of them for sure. And most people seem to agree. However, there were numerous complaints that came in immediately after the ad was aired. The problem? The National Inhalant Prevention Coalition was not pleased. Mainly, they felt that it sent the wrong message to young people that it was okay to huff and was fun to huff and to put some sort of gas in your body. I was able to obtain some statistics about inhalants from the 1990s, and while the numbers back then are certainly much higher than they are today, there was a positive trend occurring where fewer and fewer teenagers were taking inhalants. Whatever education was happening at the time to get it in people's heads that inhalants and drugs are not good seemed to be working, as the numbers from 1995 to 1999 show. But now, in the minds of a bunch of people, FedEx was coming in with this advertisement, and in front of 130 million total US television viewers, was saying that it's okay to do this, and it's even kind of fun. But what makes this controversy even more bizarre is the fact that before making the ad, FedEx was at least somewhat aware that this might be controversial, and so they consulted with national health officials to make sure that this would be okay. And FedEx got the green light. The officials came back to them, and they said that this shouldn't be a problem, because helium was not a drug, it wasn't toxic, and it posed no health threat whatsoever. So FedEx actually took the necessary precautions for an advertisement like this. It didn't matter in the end, though. The day after the Super Bowl, Harvey Weiss, the director of the NIPC based in Texas, called FedEx up asking that the advertisement be pulled. And while FedEx initially did not remove the ad, just 2 weeks later on February 14th, the company decided to give in. It cost $4.4 million to run the 60-second spot at the Super Bowl, and though the figure wasn't disclosed, it probably cost a pretty penny to produce the advertisement itself. And just like that, the advertisement was gone. Joe Pica once stated that commercials are seen, some of them hundreds of times. If you make any kind of a mistake, it's seen by people hundreds of times. So commercials have to have a certain kind of perfection. And man, was that the case here. The concept was great. The advertisement itself was great, and for the most part it was well received. But the imperfection in the message by some was enough to derail the advertisement and kill an entire campaign. When you and Toto are in Kansas, you might be able to get away with it. At the Super Bowl, not so much.